In this video, I'm going to be talking just about the scientific method, the steps that you go through when you do the scientific method to solve a problem or when you have a question that you want to answer. We're also going to talk about some specific scientific terminology, like what a variable is, independent versus dependent variable, what controls are, and we're going to go through the different steps and just figure out how to use this method. So the scientific method uses critical thinking and organization to solve problems. As you can see, it's a step-by-step process. You have to do one step before you go to the next step in order for this method to work. It's a series of procedures, and it was originally thought of by Aristotle. So here's just kind of a different way to view the scientific method. You start by asking a question. Then you do research on the question that you're asking. After you do the research, you can form a hypothesis, which is just an educated guess. Once you have your hypothesis, you're going to test it with an experiment, which could look in a lot of different ways. And then from your experiment, you'll analyze the data that you collected from that experiment. And then you draw conclusions. And a lot of times, scientists will share their results with other scientists or the public that's interested in the experiment that they did or the question that they had. And so your hypothesis was either correct and you share your results, or your hypothesis was not correct and then you have to go back, form a new hypothesis, and do additional experiments. So the first step of the scientific method is to either state the problem that you have or ask a question that you have. So you have to ask yourself, what's the problem that you want to solve, or what is the question that you want to answer. So for our example problem, we're going to say that my problem is that I cannot run a mile under 7 minutes. So that's my problem. So after I figure out what my problem is or what my question is that I want answered, I'm going to do some research, or I'm going to gather information on that specific problem. So there might be some observations that you make in a lab. You might have to search the internet for some information about your problem or question. You might have to do some field work, which means just kind of observing in nature. And so the information that I'm going to gather from my problem would be done in the field. So I'm going to have a friend watch me run and observe my form. I'm going to write down what I'm eating each day. I'm going to write down how many miles I'm running every day currently. I'm going to write down how many workouts I'm doing each day and what types of workouts I'm doing. So I'm going to gather information about the current situation of my problem. And then the third step is to form a hypothesis. So a lot of times we hear that a hypothesis is an educated guess. So what that means is that we've done our research and we are guessing, but it's based off of the research that we've done. It's also known as an explanation that can be tested. So a hypothesis has to be able to be tested. We have to figure out if the hypothesis is right or wrong. Another way to put a hypothesis is it's an if-then statement. So a lot of times when we write hypotheses, they end up being if this happens, or if I do this, then this is going to happen. So for my example, I'm going to say, if I run 6 days a week, 30 miles a week, and do 2 workouts a week, then I will run a mile under 6 minutes, or 7 minutes, I meant to say in my previous one. So my new workout routine, if I have a new workout routine, then I'll be able to reach my goal of under 7 minutes. So the fourth step is to test the hypothesis with an experiment. So let's kind of go over some of these major terms here. The hypothesis first is tested using controlled conditions. So a control are the quantities that a scientist wants to remain constant or the same in all other areas of the experiment. The independent variable is the variable that is changed by the scientist to test the effects of the dependent variable. So in other words, the dependent variable is dependent on the independent variable. So the dependent variable is the variable being tested and measured in the experiment. And like I said, it's dependent on the independent variable. And as the experimenter changes the independent variable, the effect on the dependent variable is observed and recorded. So there's a lot of terms, and sometimes this can get really confusing. So let's look at what the control, independent variable, and dependent variable would be in my experiment. So for my experiment, before I try my new workout routine, I'm going to run a mile on a track to see what my time is with the current workout routine. So with what I've been doing, what can I run? I end up running 7 minutes 30 seconds, so that's not my goal. Okay, so after this trial, I'm going to test out the new workout routine for 4 weeks. And I do what I'm supposed to do, run 6 times a week, okay, with 2 workouts each week and 30 miles a week. And so after 4 weeks, I end up running 1 mile on the same track. And I end up running 6:45, which is under my goal. So for the control of this experiment, I want to make sure that I run on the same track. I have the same weather conditions, so if it was bright and sunny and 70 degrees, it needs to be bright and sunny and 70 degrees for my second trial. It needs to be the same time of day, so if I run in the morning for the first trial, it needs to be in the morning for the second trial. I need to run in the same shoes, running apparel for both time trials. So those are my controls. Those are what are going to stay constant in both experiments. Because remember, I'm comparing before I do the new workout routine with after the new workout routine. So remember, the independent variable is what the scientist is changing in the experiment, and that's the workout routine. I'm changing the workout routine to see how it affects my mile time. Okay? So the dependent variable, what's dependent on the workout routine, is my mile time. So the dependent variable is the mile time. So after I do the experiment and get my results, I'm going to analyze those results, or analyze the data that I collected. And I could put this information into a table, graph, or other visual if I collect a lot of data, so I can compare what's going on with the 2 different experiments. So mine's very simple in my experiment. I'm just going to say that the data shows that the second workout routine helped the runner achieve their goal of running under 7 minutes for a mile. So the last step is to draw conclusions and report results. So a conclusion, we've written lots of conclusions before, I'm sure you have. It's just a logical answer to a question based on data and observation. So we asked a question or we had a problem, and the conclusion is just the answer to the problem based off of these observations. So your hypothesis is either accepted or rejected. So my hypothesis was accepted. And so it's concluded that when this particular runner runs this particular workout routine, they can run a mile under 7 minutes. So here's just kind of a review of the scientific method in order. State the problem or ask a question. Then you're going to research or gather information about the problem or question. You're going to form a hypothesis, which is that if this happens, or if I do this, then this is going to happen. And then you need to test the hypothesis with your experiment. And then you will analyze the data from that specific experiment. And the last step is to draw your conclusions and then report your results to whatever scientist or whatever friend would be interested in the results. So that is everything for this video. If you have any questions, you can write those in your notes below, and I will take questions on anything you're confused about. Hope you have a great day.